Hi, and welcome to another installment of the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm your host, Cuddy Cudworth. I'm a big believer, as I say in every one of the podcasts, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And the power of this podcast is if you are working in workplace wellness, if you are a coach wanting to build your business, or if you are wanting to talk about mental health and mindset and the power it has of how we can overcome those challenges, this is the podcast for you. I've got people all over the world at the moment, John, and we've gone up to about 34,000 subscribers for the podcast. Thank you very much to every one of the subscribers that we have on. And thank you very much for all the comments. And as always, in the YouTube channel, put in your comments, put in some questions, and we'll get the answers to you as well, because it's so important to get that engagement going. So, welcome to today's podcast, which is how to grow a thriving coaching business. I don't particularly think it's easy. And when you're a new coach wanting to get into the game, I think there's so much bullshit out there. You want to really get the finer details because we can get so overwhelmed with thinking, right, now I need a funnel. Now I need an email list. Now I need a lead magnet. Now I need to do this. And I would consider myself a little bit old school of I think face to face is always better, but it's not always the only way. So we want to increase that revenue opportunities for coaches, therapists, and to be fair, today's guest has got skin in the game. And when I say skin in the game, I genuinely mean long-time coach, seen the highs, seen the lows, and we're going to talk best practices from John Drysdale. Now, I know I've given you a little introduction there, John, but now it's your turn to shine. Welcome to the Mind Management Mentors podcast. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, and how long you've been in the game.
Thanks for having me, Cuddy. It's a real pleasure to do this at last. I've been watching from afar, and you're doing such a great job actually promoting coaching and mental health matters. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. So I'm John. I'm based in beautiful Fife in Scotland, which isn't far from. I'm not far from you, Cuddy. I've been in I suppose the training, consultancy, coaching game as a business for the last 20 years. And then before that, I was in the corporate world and, as a trainer and training manager. So I'd say it's probably since what, 1995, gosh, is it as long as that? I've been involved in some form of learning and development. And I set the business up 20 years ago. I was made redundant from my job. I didn't particularly want to go back in the corporate world. And I thought, how can I do something that I still enjoy doing and make money from it? So that's what I decided to do, was to set up my own training and development company, and went from there. And it's kind of evolved through the years into more of the coaching space. I think in the old days you used to be the trainer, didn't you? You'd stand at the
Yeah.
flip chart and dispense wisdom. I think that's a bit old hat now. There's still scope for some of that, but it's much more about facilitating. So I facilitate teams and groups of people, and then some of the one-to-one stuff. So working with execs and leaders in that coaching space. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
I have got 1,001 questions for you, John Drysdale.
Okay, we'll do our best to answer most of those, but
Over your 20 years,
Mhm.
when I talk about these things, I always have I got a bias? I haven't got a bias, but I think there's some questions that need to be asked is in that workplace or in with executives now, ADHD and the spectrum of things that we have to go through for life wasn't as well understood back in the day.
Yeah.
John, 20 years in the game now, you're working with executives that have found out they've got executive dysfunction, which I still think is bullshit. I apologize, but I'm going to say that. It's just the fear of
Okay,
not being good
interesting.
enough.
Uh-huh.
Yep, just the fear of not being good enough.
Yeah.
Whenever we put a label on something, I hear people say, "Oh, I have that." I'm like, "No, you did it. You just have a fear of not being good enough."
Okay.
ADHD, and all these labels and the world of working with a spectrum. Have you found that space for you as a leader and coaching executives who are working with large teams, and that executive comes to you and goes, "Well, this one's got ADHD, this one's autistic, this one's got executive dysfunction." How do you coach and manage that from your perspective? How has that changed?
Yeah, I think it has changed. I think certainly what I've seen an increase in the last couple of years, probably since the pandemic, for honest, Cuddy, is that coaching in complexity. So a lot of the people I coach work in large organizations, typically universities. That's my main target market. So you're dealing with people who've got like really high IQ, the clever people, senior people. However, some of that stuff you're talking about, the lack of confidence, I think is due to the environment they're in. It's not really them, it's the environment they happen to be in at the moment. So I'm getting asked a lot around this area about, the VUCA thing, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, VUCA. I think that people are just really struggling with that whole idea. And often I'm just sort of creating a space where people can kind of take a step back and think about what some of this complexity and the changes involved in their workplace, what that means for them, and how they can navigate that more effectively. But I think it's fair to say that most leaders, most execs don't have time and they don't have space. They don't have somebody like you to talk to. And that can feel quite isolated, I suppose. But when you talk to people, say, when do you find time and space to do your best thinking? They can't tell you. So other than when we make an appointment, we create that space online or in person, they don't really have space and time to think effectively. And I think it's incredibly damaging, I think, for people's confidence and the stuff that you work with, Cuddy, in well-being. So that's where I come from. A lot of the time is just about trying to create an environment where they feel they can trust me, and people share all sorts of things with me as they do you, um, and give them that time out from all the madness that goes on in organizations. So that's become an increasing theme, I think, over certainly the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's certainly on the rise, which I know that creates more. I hate to say, but it creates more opportunities for that coaching space to be able to grow. Because there are many
Yeah.
specialized coaches out there that have got different niches. So with 20 years in the game, there's ups and downs in coaching. I know we've talked about it, John. We'll not deep dive too much into that, but it's how do we start helping coaches who are again, and this might be a mindset problem on me, but I think that the big sell and the push for coaching is getting to coaching. Coaching is one of the biggest growing areas for people they're needing coaches. We're needing more coaches. And it's really easy to become a coach. To be fair, certified, you can become a certified coach. I've seen them on Facebook for £7, $7 to
Right.
become a
Okay.
certified
Yeah.
coach. It's true, it's out there. I mean, I've got a course out there that's only 40 quid, and you can actually do what I do from that course. So I
Yep.
fully understand that space. And the amount of people I've met and said, "Oh, could I do NLP or I do EMDR and I do all these things?" And I'm like, "Great, how many clients have you got?" "Oh, well, none." "Okay, right, perfect." So there's a difference. There is a difference between doing that course and then actually going out into the big bad world. And if you've got 20 years in the game, you have expanded your business. And that's what we want to talk about today is how does a coach, because you are ILM certified. So first of all, touch on what ILM certification is and why it's different to NLP or the other coaching body, which is I know is out there, which was quite a big name at one point. I forgot the name of the other coach. What's the other coaching body?
There's the Association of Coaching, Federation, ACF, EMCC, European Mentoring Coaching
There
Council.
is so much.
Yeah.
There is so much out there.
Yeah.
But what does ILM mean for you, John?
So ILM is a qualification. They're an awarding body, so they're a qualifications board, basically.
Mm,
And I became involved with them. It's probably about 18 years ago now. And we became an ILM center. So I've done my ILM level 7, which is like a kind of post-grad thing in coaching. But we set ourselves up as a center. My company set itself up as a center, so we could actually administer coaching qualifications. So we ran programs on it, and then people could do their portfolios. And so over the years, we've trained dozens and dozens of people to become coaches, but that's with a bona fide qualification attached to it. So it sits on a national syllabus governed by England and Wales, and that is a proper qualification. So you can put that in your CV and say it is actually a qualification. It's not an accreditation or maybe some kind of light touch award. It's a proper qualification, so it's fairly weighty. So that's the way I've always kind of distinguished ILM. It used to be the Institute of Leadership and Management. It's now part of City and Guilds, and they just use the ILM branding for that because it's quite well known. It's like the other one's Chartered Management Institute, CMI. So that's the way I distinguish that. It's whether you want a proper coaching qualification,
Hmm.
or you want something from like the Coaching Academy is another one. So they do some really good courses on coaching. But I went down the ILM route because it sat on the national syllabus. It was
Yeah.
a bona fide qualification.
Yeah. So, I think that was really because there is so many, and it's touching on. Actually, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you a question because I think I hear a lot of new coaches, and I've only been in the game 5 years. I've only been in the game 5 years since I left Royal Caribbean after COVID. But I hear a lot of people, and I always say if you took that away, it might help you because I think it comes from a place of insecurity. And I know I used to do that. And John, you can say, actually, Cuddy, you're wrong. I don't mind. I think this is the power of these conversations. Is I don't think anybody has ever paid for me because of a certification or an accreditation. And
No,
I've never once said I am a certified NLP coach or I'm a
yeah.
certified EMDR coach. No one's ever asked me, are you certified or accredited? So, John, 20 years in the game, have you ever gone to a client and said, I am an ILM certified client. How can I help you today?
No, absolutely not. I agree with you on that one. The only time it might, I mean, there's a couple of things there. What one is, and what we trained with our coaching candidates, so we're going through that program, was that the ILM thing gives you a really good grounding on it. You,
Mm,
you kind of have to understand coaching and the process behind coaching. And then you've got to do, there's various assignments and portfolios. So pulling that all together, it gives you that grounding, I suppose. So it's not about the bit of paper, it's not about the certificate itself. It's about how that positions you as a coach, so you've got some kind of methodology and understanding of what you do. But I agree, no one's ever asked me for can I see your certificate? The only time you might get asked is if you're pitching for some of these larger contracts. So you might be pitching for a really big bit of business and say there's a coaching element within that, and you're having to coach senior leaders. They'll probably say, who's on your coaching team and what qualifications do they have? So I have used it in that context where it's been part of a larger tender or a bid for a piece of work. So that's the only time it comes in.
yeah. Yeah. And for any new coach that's watching this, and I was speaking to I was speaking to actually I was speaking to somebody because they wanted to come into my community for coaching for mind management and the psychosensory therapies that we're doing. And this guy was absolutely fantastic. And he rattled off all the qualifications he had. And I kind of had to say to him after 30 minutes chat, I went, Yep, technically more certified already than me. I don't really know how this is going to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I need to do this now and I need to do that. I'm like, all right, okay, if that's what you want to. So what's that? I know I'm confident. John, I
Mhm.
know you know I'm confident, and that comes from self-awareness. I know that.
Yeah.
But what's the defining moment in somebody's coaching career going from I don't need another course, I don't need another certification to I am a coach and this is what I resolve. What's that journey for a new coach?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I can kind of relate it to our coaching candidates when they were going through this. It was always about. I mean, they would always ask, "Can I go out and coach people now?" So they'd start the program. So, well, absolutely yes. Get some guinea pigs. Get some people that you can say, "I'm training and coaching. Can we book some sessions?" And I think that's really important to get that under your belt to start to really think about, what you're doing. Think about the process of coaching. If you're going to book some sessions with people, what does that look like? What does it look, feel, and sound like? What's the outcomes involved? What's your kind of offer there? And so I think actually just going through that process, defining what the offer is, how you can help people, how you're going to onboard clients. What's the initial steps that you take? Do you have a so I have a discovery call, so for people, an hour discovery call, so they can come on board. We can have a discussion. I can see if I can help them or not, and then we scope out what that coaching might look like and what some of the outcomes might be. So I think if people have that kind of process and they've got a kind of defined offer, and to go out and to attract the people that, and I think this is really important, the people you want to work with. So who are the people that you want to help, and you want to be part of their journey. So often I've seen people just lacking that definition of, what is your target market? Who are you selling this to? So I mean, even if they're not paying you, you're still selling the idea, saying, well, can I do some coaching with you? So I think, going back to your question, I think it's about having a really clear idea of your offer. What is it you're doing? There's going to be a bit of trial and error there. A lot of our coaching people say it's really nerve-wracking. Yes, it is the first few times, I suppose, you do it. Or even now, if I've got a new client, you're still a little bit uncertain. You're thinking, is this going to work out? Sometimes they're thinking, what is it? I didn't know what to say, or I didn't know the right questions to ask. And when you reflect on your coaching, I think that's part of it as well. Is after each session that you take time to reflect and you think, well, what went well there? What did I do well? And what some of the areas I could have worked on. Um, so it's all part of that, embedding that kind of what I call the practice study, the practice of coaching. So it's becoming practiced at coaching. Sorry, that was quite a long answer, but
No,
it's
you can have as many
you're right.
answers as you want. No, they're great.
Yeah.
No, the bigger the answers, the better the questions, the bigger the answers. But I want someone to come to this podcast and go, right, now I know how to start. Because I think what's missing a lot, and it's something that I had to learn along the journey, which I know when you've got 20 years in the game, that's something that you're going to be able to pass on to somebody else is when you get into coaching, we think, right, I just need those one-on-one clients. And to be fair, I think a lot of people, and again, you can tell me if I'm wrong, John, it's not as easy as we like to say about
Yeah.
saying getting those one-on-one coaching clients. And a coach has to be able to, right, look at their business model and go, actually, I'm not just a coach. I can now do X, Y, and Z. So I've got five different levels to the coaching business, which is why you're here as 20 years in the game. What's the difference? I've got a question. I want to come back to this. I just put, in case I forget, just I want to know what consulting is, and so somebody.
Okay. Okay.
But we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
What does a consultant do?
A consultant. So part of my role, I suppose, is consultancy. So quite often you get asked a question. They might say something like, "Do you do?" I mean, I was asked about sales training. I think I was telling you before. I've done some sales training in a university context, which is my target market. So I was asked, John, do you do sales training? Now, I wouldn't say that's a big core of my business. I started out as a sales trainer
Mm.
in telecoms, door knockers going around knocking on people's doors and selling them cheap phones and cable, the boxes that used to sit under your telly. I trained those guys to sell. So sales training was part of my background. So they usually say, can you do such and such? I'm like, yeah, what's the issue here? What's the problem you're trying to resolve? And as soon as you say that, I think you're starting to get into consultancy. Because it would be so easy for me just to pick something off the shelf and say, well, there's a 1 day sales training course and deliver it. And you could maybe deliver that online, or maybe there's an e-learning module, or whatever. So you just pick something. Where consultancy comes in is where it's not quite as straightforward. So this most recent assignment, it started to delve into a lot of things underneath the surface. Things like the process, the sales process that's involved, how they're positioning themselves in the market, the sort of mindset of people going into that arena. So you're kind of pulling out all the different threads. So again, if it's consultancy, I just set up a discovery call. I say, yeah, I think I can help with that. And I was very clear with these guys. I don't do cold calling and all that kind of, the real hard sell. But I'm an accredited relationship development trainer
Mm.
and referral marketing. So I'm on fairly comfortable ground there. So I said, I don't do that stuff, but I do the relational stuff. And they said, well, it's actually the relational stuff we need, John. Great. Okay. Let's have a conversation. And then just through talking to them, and then I'm just like a sponge in these situations. So I'd recommend if anybody's going out talking to clients, and it doesn't matter what your offer is, what you're selling, is you use the 20-80 rule, which is 20% maximum of you talking and 80% of you listening. So all the time, I'm just listening to the issues, the themes, the problems, their aspirations, what they're trying to get out of, this project. And I'd summarize that back to them. And I summarize back the gain, the stuff they want to move towards, and the pain they want to move away from. So in this case, it's more sales, more international students coming to the university, less of losing out to competition, less of not being able to handle objections and all that sort of stuff.
Mm.
And I just summarize that back to them. And I taught this in class this week. I've got a nice little phrase. Anybody watching this, when you summarize that back to them, your client is generally nodding along. So they'll nod along because they've just told you all this stuff, Cuddy. They just so they can't say no, that's not us because you're just repeating back what they've said. And then the little magic phrase is how would it be if? How would it be if I put together a one-page proposal to show how this training can help move your sales forward,
Mm.
get more sales? So when you say the words how would it be if, they nod along because that's what they want to hear. They want to, yeah, that sounds brilliant. I've never had anybody say no to that. No, it's not just,
How would it be if?
how would it be if I put together a one-page proposal? Or it could be, how would it be if I run a pilot workshop? Could be another one. How would it be if we did a webinar for some of your people? So coaches out there could think about what's the kind of, I'm always talking about getting people to the next yes.
Yeah.
So as long as somebody isn't saying no, you're getting them to the next yes. It might not be the big yes that you're after. It might not be the big contract, but as long as you're moving them along that journey. So coaches could think about what's the next yes they want to get people to. Is it some sort of workshop? Is it maybe downloading some resources, or is it about a proposal? Can I put together a proposal for your management team? But it's just such a nice little phrase because it's people just nod along and this when you go, how would it be if? And they're going, yeah, that sounds brilliant.
Right, we've opened up and we're going down the rabbit hole here. That was something popped up there, John, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be glorious. So, how many yeses do you want to get people into before you hit them with the "shall we work together"? How many yeses would be a good standard a set of yeses?
I don't know if there is one, Curry. I think it depends pretty much on their state of readiness. Um, so sometimes they're just not ready for you quite yet, and it's about maybe it's a smaller yes for the moment. So a yes could be, could we go on your supplier framework or something like that? So they might have an approved list of suppliers. So how would it be if I gave you some details and perhaps I could get on your supplier framework? So they haven't bought from you yet, they haven't spent any money yet, but it's a yes along the way. But I don't think it depends on the organization. Sometimes depends how big they are. It depends on getting in front of the right people. That's another one. So are you sitting in front of the right person? And it depends on maybe where they are in the budget cycle. Are they ready to spend with you yet? There's all sorts of factors, but I wouldn't say there's a set number of yeses. But I think you've just got to be persistent and consistent with it.
Consistent and
Yeah,
consistent.
keep going back and get them to the next yes.
I just did a podcast a week ago with someone, and he was saying that there was about anywhere between there's got to be 8 to 12 contacts before people even buy sometimes. So if you could get the yeses in the first eight, I'm sure that would bring the contact points down.
Yeah,
But I mean, this is relevant for
it's
any kind
feasible.
of business. Yeah, any
Yeah,
kind of sales business.
yeah,
Because I think, and I know coaches struggle with this, and I did struggle with it in the beginning, and it still pops up for me now sometimes, is if you become a coach, and I know that most people get into that coaching space because they want to help.
yeah,
The
yeah,
hard truth of it is you have to become a salesperson
yeah.
because you're selling yourself. You're selling your skills, you're selling the outcomes, you're selling the transformation, you're selling the reason that they want to come and speak to you, which is marketing as well.
Yeah, that's right. You're not. I mean, I try and avoid the word coaching if I can, because to be honest with you, it has become a bit polluted over the years, isn't it? There's been so many people set themselves up as coaches and coaching, and it's been quite the forefront. It's not why people are engaging with you. They want some kind of solution. Again, they want to move towards something good or away from something bad. That's the thing that they're buying from you. They're not buying coaching per se. They're not buying a thing in a box, are they?
Mm.
So it's to be more outcomes focused and d deliberate in what you're talking about. So, I'll talk about, do you know how executives are often stressed and they don't have time to make effective decisions? Well, what I do is I create time and space for them to do that, and that way they're much more effective and they're much happier and more effective in their job. And that's why I love coaching executives and
Yes, absolutely.
it's like
Yes.
it's like having a little spiel, a little narrative that says it's the verb rather than the noun. It's the what you do for people. It's not what you're called. I know it says executive and business coach because we all have our business cards, don't we? But
Yeah.
that's not why people are buying from me. They're buying from the effect of the time they spend with me.
How important is niche?
I think it's pretty important. Um, having said that, I work across a number of different target markets as well as executive and business coach. I really like working with solo entrepreneurs and smaller businesses um, who perhaps haven't had that kind of corporate training background. So probably no one's told them how to sell or to how to deliver customer service or that sort of thing, or even, how to finance a business. So I do enjoy those discussions. So that tends to be a bit more pragmatic. The executives, for me, it's typically execs in large, complex organizations like universities is probably the best example. And if I was honest about it, I would say universities are my main target market.
Yeah. And we were talked about this this morning, actually, didn't we? With that, do we think that university is as important as it used to be?
I think they're having to, so a lot of the conversation at the moment is around the volatility. And you've probably seen some of the headlines about the finances that's affected what I do. But the university finances aren't brilliant at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of that's to do with the international market. Hence, now I'm talking to universities about sales. I can't imagine I would have ever spoken to universities using the S word. Sales just it's such a commercial word. It's anathema to them really
Mm.
a lot of the time. But now I think they're starting to think, okay, we need to be much more commercial and outwardly focused. So that's a good opportunity. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a number of different routes. Young people today can do apprenticeships. The very fact we can do stuff virtually these days. Lots of stuff online. Do people need universities? I think it's about how they position themselves.
Yeah.
Ironically, I didn't go to university. I didn't think I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was clever enough, and settled for a 9 to 5 job when I left school, and I left school quite early, to be fair. Really regret it now. I think they're amazing places. I love going in when it's around about graduation time and you see them all dressed up with the parents, and the big hall in Leeds is set out with the champagne flutes and stuff like that. And I just think that's just blows my mind. I just find that amazing. And that whole kind of life experience, that 3 or 4 years of, you know, just enjoying life and meeting new people, I think must be amazing. So I think it does offer much more, I think, than just you get a degree or whatever it is. And I think that, and to be fair, I think that's how they position themselves. The work I did last week was a lot of it was about the experience of coming to that particular university, the feeling of belonging, the employability prospects, all of that stuff. But I do think they're going to have to get better at selling the message.
Yes, absolutely. I know it's funnily enough, I never went to university. Do you know what? And I often use this as hopefully a good example for people, but I actually didn't really do that well in school, to be fair. And I didn't really I had to go do resits because I think I got D's in everything. So I went back to resits because I actually wanted to be a school teacher. I wanted to be a PE
Did
teacher.
you? Yeah.
I actually did way back in the day. I either wanted to join the police or be a PE teacher because they
Oh,
were all the things that I really liked. Even though I've always been big and chunky, I've always been quite sporty and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I was obsessed with basketball. So I failed my exams, and then I went to college after doing resits, and I did sports science, and I think I got a merit overall, which was like technically a C in college. But then I was I don't really want to. I think what was pitched to me is, could you should go and do. This is when the light fell out of my eyes. I was like, are you fucking serious? So as it turns out, it's a really good business to go into. They went, Cuddy, you'd be really good at doing groundsman work at the football stadiums, at the big stadiums. I'm like, I'm not going to be a landscaper. No disrespect to anyone that's in landscaping, but I'd done all my coaching qualifications in. So there was outward bouts coaching, there was leadership coaching, even at college at that level. There was I think it was the PFG, which was the Premiership football coaching thing you needed to do. And I got me prelims in basketball and netball. So I think coaching, but when they said, could you should go to university, there's something that's popped up for groundsman work. I was like, fuck off. Absolutely not. Um, Probably would have turned out a great job now, to be fair. But I was like, nah, that's not for me because I just and it's funny because for anyone that's listening to this, if you failed your exams or you've not done well at school. The thing is with school is you have to learn what they have to teach you. And if you're
Yeah.
not interested in that, you probably don't want to do well in it. But what lights you up in life is probably something else, and you'll deep dive. I got obsessed with NLP and mind management.
Right.
I mean, genuinely, I have the whole mental health aspect because of what I went through.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with and still am to this day. I'm like, right, maybe there's something I don't know. I need to look into that. Of how the language that we have up here
Hmm.
can actually change our emotional state. So NLP blew my mind. So I started with NLP, then went into CBT, and then I went into, I don't use CBT as much now because most of my clients are trauma. And
Right.
CBT is not effective with
Okay.
trauma because trauma's in a different part of the brain. It's in the limbic system. So
Right.
I have to work in the limbic system, which is why brain spotting is so powerful. So that's generally what I do with my clients. We resolve with the brain spotting, then we advance into the coaching support for solution focused and things like that. So that's for anyone that's listening, like, well, I've not done well at school or anything like that. I think if you're passionate about something, as I know you are with your coaching and I am with my coaching, your things in the past really doesn't matter. It's how when you find a passion in life, you'll probably deep dive and do everything you need to know about it, and you'll learn. But those traumas of our past of, well, I wasn't good at school, so I'm probably not going to be good at this,
Yeah.
shows up, and we can resolve those things. So yeah, it's funny that you said you never even went to university, but you work in universities now. You work in universities now.
Yeah. And I think what you said is really, really important. I mean, we often talk about the why. Why do we do what we do? And again, encourage anyone listening to maybe think about that. I'm happy to have a chat with people about this as well, by the
Hmm.
way. But to dig down and think about what was the point you realized that this is what you wanted to do? Because that's a really powerful marketing message. Your story there, Cuddy.
Mm,
Mine was that I was pretty average at school,
mm.
through a life of being average and, leaving to do an average job. And I was never told I was anything more than average. Um, the first opportunity I had, I saw people doing training. I was in a government organization and I saw people doing training and I thought, I quite like that. I like the style, I like what they were doing. I'm an introvert, but I do enjoy presenting, and there was something about the way they presented, and I thought that's an interesting job. How do you become a trainer? And then, as luck would have it, there was a vacancy came up, and got sent on a couple of train the trainer courses. And the first session I did was on ergonomics. When the early days of computers, and you had to set your equipment up and all the rest of it, and the seat, and you had to adjust your seat, get it to the right height, And I would go in before the session. I'd put all the seats in the wrong position, so they're sort of leaning forward or leaning back or something. So they had something to do. But the first session I did, and it was the days of the old acetates. Remember the old acetates?
Oh,
Days
I
before.
do remember with yes, the acetates that you put the thing down and the
Yeah.
light up.
Oh,
Yes.
young people wouldn't know this, but it was like a light bulb that shone through a clear film and then you shone on a projector. So I had a big stack of those. Needed a wheelbarrow to take them in the in
That's
the
brilliant.
session. And at the end of it, everybody said that was a great session. Really enjoyed that. And they went, oh, I thought it was going to be boring, but it was really, really good, And I thought, right, this is what I want to do. I like this idea of helping people and people being a little bit inspired and sort of going above their expectations for what they expect from a training course. So that's the first moment I knew that's what I wanted to do. That was about 30 years ago. Yeah.
Perfect. I love that. So, John, the main point of this podcast was how do you build a resilient coaching company? Because the one-on-ones is that big uh ladder to get them to the one-on-one coaching. But how has John Drysdale been able to manage to build a resilient coaching company? What three things would you absolutely say you need to do this, you need to do this, and you need to do this to stop you going from that feast and famine kind of part, which I think all coaches will go through. How do you build that resilience? I know what I do, but I wanted to know what does John do?
Yeah. So I think there's a number of things people could do, and that's to stop thinking about one-on-one necessarily
Hmm.
and think about what else you can do. So, I mean, it's so easy now. We can do webinars online. So if there's a subject, that's your particular topic, I know I've spoken to some of your audience before, Carrie, that were into sort of mental health. And the menopause one was a lady that coached around the
Yeah,
menopause.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think that's really interesting. How do you package that up into different offerings? It could be a one-on-one,
Yeah.
but chances are you're probably going to need to attract some interest. So things like webinars. So it could be free webinars, um, you know, um, attracting an audience. Again, maybe with some next steps to it. Maybe there's the download some resources from your website, or there's a worksheet or something. So that's another way you could do it, is have something to offer them. So that's a good way, like sort of like in that case, like a fact sheet on menopause or something like that. It could be something you go to your website and download that, or they contact you on Facebook. So it's all of these ways of engaging. So it could be free webinars, or you could start to get into the paid workshops. I did a paid workshop last week. It was great fun. Got to get your shoulder behind it marketing wise and make sure you've got people in the room. Um, and then it's maybe thinking about um, carving up all that knowledge maybe into different modules or things that you could offer. And then maybe thinking about maybe on the corporate side, how do I package this up for a kind of corporate environment? Or,
Mm.
I was talking about NHS this morning. So what about the NHS? Or, and again, maybe being clear about which target market you want to serve with this stuff. So I think all this stuff you've got in your head, people watching that will have expertise in something. It's thinking about the different ways that you can package that up and not relying maybe on one type of And there's the online stuff as well. So I know you've done training videos and stuff online.
Yeah, and
That, that's
I will share that with everybody on the podcast. Is
yeah,
so the three biggest drivers for me for clients and business is my online platform. There is online platform on Udemy, and I do very well out of Udemy. To be fair, a lot of those people that have done my courses then actually become my clients because they say, I want to go through brain spotting or psychosensory therapy or EMDR with you, Cuddy. Because they've seen the video course, they've seen me show them how to do it, and they're like, I feel comfortable to work with you to work through what I need to.
yeah,
So I actually work with psychologists in America now, therapists all over the world that have said, I now need to work on something myself. So I want to work with you on that, which is fantastic. That is a low cost, passive income part of my business journey. And I would highly recommend anyone do that. It's a lot of work, but it's just passive income. It's in the background. It gets them into my ecosystem. So
yeah,
my ecosystem of Cuddy, mind management, psychosensory therapy, and management training gets them in that ecosystem. Then they can start looking around everything. So that's kind of my lead magnets and the marketing to get them into there. Then I get them into my own personal private community where they can ask me questions and we give them the content and they get the podcast links and things like that. And then that helps me generate free social media. And then I have the podcasts.
yeah.
And we talked about the reason of the podcast. And the reason is it's free advertisement for your services. And it helps people go, oh, actually, Cuddy knows what he's talking about. John knows what he's talking about. I need to speak to these people. So it is kind of lead magnet for everybody to go, that's what I want to work with, and that's the person. Because I do believe, and I know it's been said before, people buy people, they're not bothered about the certificates. They buy people, they buy an outcome.
Yeah.
That's what I'm focused on. John, I'm sure you are from what I've heard, is I'm outcome focused, solution focused. Everything that I do is solution focused so that you don't have to work with me on a long time. It should be a shorter time unless you want that longer coaching program. So that's what I do to
Makes sense.
bring the broad spectrum of Cuddy. And that's I just think when John, you've got 20 years in the game, you've got some absolute golden nuggets, which is what I'm going to come on to now, which is
Mm.
how can a coach find their voice? See what I did
Oh,
there for your book? Yes.
yeah. So the find your voice thing. I was asked quite a lot for this topic, which is about having conversations. Um, a lot of people in the workplace, I think, having the fear of having difficult conversations. So I wrote an ebook. It's on my website. So it's called Find Your Voice: How to Have Conversations That Matter. Um, I think it's kind of tailored at these trickier conversations. But funnily enough, I was doing a webinar. I was invited to do a guest talk last week, and it was for business people. So again, entrepreneurs. There were some coaches on that one as well. So I kind of tweaked the content. What I talked a lot about was feeling confident to have the right conversations with even like your customers. So things like relational issues with customers. And in fact, there was a chap on the webinar, was an IT provider, and he felt he was getting a little bit sidelined in terms of some of the decisions his client was making. He's advising him one thing, the client's going away and they're installing this other thing over here that he didn't recommend.
Shiny light syndrome.
Is what, sorry?
Shiny light syndrome or shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It could be that. But then we got into okay. So what's happening there then? Do you think why might the client be doing that? And I have a thing called stepping in front of the conversation, which is about it's kind of like talking about the elephant in the room. So stepping in front of the conversation with the client saying, that decision that you made about the security system wasn't involved in that. Can we have a chat about that? And can we have a chat about our relationship? What sort of relationship we want to have. The relationship question, I'm going back to your question. I'm trying to go back to your question about what can coaches, what was your question was about what kind of conversations or how
It
can we
was how to find your voice,
find
your
a
book.
voice here? Yeah, The question I ask my clients often is, what's the relationship? What's the relationship you want to have? So thinking about your audience here today is, what's the relationship your coaches want to have with their clients?
Mm.
And if it's not quite right, it doesn't fit with your values, maybe the client's not fully aligned with your purpose. It's about having a conversation around that. And it could be around having some difficult conversations actually. And it's okay to sack off clients that say, maybe, you're not taking my advice on board. I don't think this is really working out. So that's that in that context. I'm trying to go back to your question about finding a voice. One thing you can do, taking it in a different context to find your voice, I think, is becoming really comfortable with yourself on things like camera. So you're obviously comfortable with this, Curry, doing the podcasts and the
This is
webinars.
the reason I use this 40s because I can't type for shit.
Yeah, that makes
I
sense.
play to my strengths. I definitely play to my
Yeah.
strengths.
I think just getting really comfortable talking about the things you're passionate about, the ways you can help people,
Mm.
um, little hints and tips of the day. I've got a couple little video kind of themes I use. One's tales from the riverbank. So we've got a little stream runs down the bottom of our property, and I sometimes just go down there with a gimbal and I film myself talking about something. It could be about the dread imposter syndrome or something like that. Um, and these tend to be quite kind of like lifestyle-y, kind of more mindset. I've just started a new one called Light Bulb Moments, where I'm trying to get across a topic in 90 seconds or less. So did the first one last week, which was around sales and how to pitch yourself. Try to get across the topic in 90 seconds. It's me sitting next to a big light bulb, you know, some nice intro music and all the rest of it. And people like you and I can help people if they don't know what to do there. In fact, you helped me a lot with the Canva and stuff. Um,
Canva, by the way, I love Canva. And
it's just
I'm not
amazing.
tech savvy, but yeah,
No,
yeah,
for anybody watching this, I'm just not like video editing was kind of my nemesis and stuff, but it makes it so easy. And you can do some really cool stuff. So you can do some cool stuff around your brand. I always recommend you get some kind of logo designed, or if you go on Fiverr and get someone in the
yeah.
subcontinent to design it for you, whatever. And then maybe have a go at sort of finding your voice in that context is getting really good at talking about a few key topics that people will be interested in and packaging them up into little segments that you can then use on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever your platforms are. Anyway, a long answer again, Cuddy, but I think there's the difficult conversation one. Find your voice. The book tells you how to do that. I think it's really important for businesses. But in terms of finding your voice, in terms from a kind of a sales branding viewpoint, I would I would think about the brand and what is it you want to put out there. What's the key messages that you want to get across?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, yeah, yeah. I get that. So, yeah, I there's something that popped up about a week ago, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to use that all the time. And for anyone watching this, you'll probably see it if you've seen a LinkedIn post, you'll see a LinkedIn post because I've got the picture ready to go and stuff like that.
Okay.
Is you do have to repel as many people as possible to find who you want to be attracted to.
Hmm.
And I'm always reminded by this quote, and it's not mine, but I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to use the shit out of that. Is I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and if I was, I'd be a mug.
Right. Okay.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is that's a really affirmational kind of thing for any coach. And it is a switching mindset from scarcity to abundance, but realizing you're not for everybody. I I am not for everybody.
Yeah.
John Drysdale is not for everybody, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean to say you're not for somebody.
Yeah.
And keep being you, sticking to your values, you will attract the right people. And that is hard for people to do when they've not got anything in front of them, a client or a strategy or a person. And I think that's where, if I, correct me if I'm wrong, that's where find your voice is like, look, find your voice and really start pushing towards that.
Yeah, I think that that's fair. I think it's about having a clear offer. Like, so what is it you're offering? So in some sort of coaching, consultancy, it could be therapy or whatever it is, but you're in some sort of space. So what's the offer there? Who is your target audience? So, I always get annoyed when people say, or anybody who, you know, it's very difficult to find anybody. It's easier to find somebody. So I think people say anybody is such a big net in the hope that something will come their way. But actually, it's counterintuitive. The more specific you can be, the easier it is to sell the thing that you do. Um, and then it's about I think a clear sort of branding and self-awareness of what you're pushing out to the world to support that. So these are the people I want to work with. This is the offer. And here's how I'm presenting that to the wider world, and then giving people a chance to say yes, and give them a chance to come on board. So what is that? Is that like my case, a discovery call, some sort of meeting? Do they download something from your website? Do they sign up for your webinar or your session? Something like that. So it's taking them along that journey.
Two questions, and then we're going to wrap up because I'm conscious of time. So I know you've got clients coming on this afternoon. How do you build an offer? What is an offer, and how do you build it?
Ooh, how long have we got? I think, yeah, there's kind of different schools of thought around this. I suppose it's about you have to be prepared to offer stuff that doesn't work. Yeah.
Oh,
In terms of like, you think it's a good idea, but you put it out there, maybe nobody takes it up, or for whatever reason it just doesn't land properly. So I think you've got to be prepared to trial and error on some of it. Um, I think sorry, what was the question again, Cuddy? It was about
how do you build an offer? And then the second question is what how do you build an offer so that someone's going to walk away from this podcast and go, now I know how to build an offer, and what is an offer, and what, because I actually don't know. I'm actually asking because I'm like, right, I'll take this away myself. What
well,
is it? Someone comes to you, is like, and I've heard it mentioned before, you need to build your offer. What is an offer
well,
and
it's
what do you build?
it's a specific product or coach or service. And in the case of coaching, you need to be quite specific about the type of coaching it is and what's actually on the table. So is this like an ongoing relationship thing, or is it a short intervention where you're going to help people over so many months? What does that look like? And importantly, then price comes into it as well. So and this is the thing that people I think struggle a lot with is what's that worth? Um, and then you can think about, well, maybe there's different packages within that. So you could have the kind of different levels depending on what it is that you offer people. But it's been a very, very clear about, yeah, what's in the box. If you imagine it was an actual product, like what is in that box, and then what are you going to charge for that? And that's the bit that I think people struggle with a wee bit.
Yeah, it's fair. To be fair, that pops up still for me. Yeah, so absolutely. I'm still adapting my packages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
well, a lot of us do, and we
yeah.
tinker around with things. I think sometimes maybe too much tinkering around. It's not. I don't think it is so much about the price. I think it's more about the clarity of what it is you're offering.
Is it the clarity of the let's especially as we're talking prices and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Is it the understand what's going to help a coach is understanding the value of the transformation, if which is what
yeah,
you're selling, or is it the VAT or the cost of the per hour, which I know is a hard mindset to move out of from when you've started working 9 to 5 and you got paid £12 an hour to go and say to somebody, I'll do four sessions with you, and that's £1,400, whatever it is.
yeah,
People still go from, well, that's 100 and that's 275 an hour, whatever,
yeah. They'll
to
still break
actually
it
no.
down. Yeah, I try and avoid the early thing if I can.
Yeah,
So it just seems transactional to me.
yeah.
Um, I tend to talk more about overall programs or packages,
Yeah.
and then build build additional value into that. So that could be resources, material, like what you offer as well.
Yeah.
So additional resources and ways of supporting the people that come into your orbit, Cuddy.
Mm.
Um, and you can look at that over the period, and you can say, well, it's this is the price of that entire program, and it gives you scope as well. If budget is an issue, you can maybe offer them a smaller package for less of an investment. So it's about maybe having some kind of flexibility in the offer there helps.
Yeah. Perfect.
Never reduce your price, but what you can start to do is you can start to maybe say, well, okay, that's that package. Well, we could strip some of that stuff out. We could still do that, and this is what that would cost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Bang on. Perfect. John, for anyone now, this is the final takeaway, the final light bulb moment with John Drysdale, is how do you build a resilient coaching company after 20 years?
Yeah, quite a wide-ranging question that as well. But I think I think it's about nowadays. I think it's about responding to the market and what's happening there. And it's trying to predict because we're all in that VUCA world. It's all volatile and uncertain and so on. So it is about responding to the marketplace and what their needs are. So a couple of things drive me at the minute: complexity and people working in just really unclear kind of environments. There's so much going on. There's so much change, the rate of change, the way technology, stuff with AI and all the rest of it. How do we deal with all that? And so it's about focusing in on the problems people have today and tomorrow. What's the next thing? And the second thing is looking where people are more likely to say yes because they have to spend some money, don't they? So it's about my one at the moment is around this kind of area of sales generation
Mm,
and how can I help a sector that isn't used to maybe that hard-nosed kind of commercial idea of selling to people.
mm,
I think we all sell to people with at least a small s. And I think that's where, judging by the way the session went down last week, where I come in, giving them the skills to do that, the confidence to do that, but also you're asking about the consultancy piece earlier. It's, I think, my ability to dig beneath the surface and say, well, there's
mm,
some other things that need sorted out here as well, in order to sell those. So I think things that have gives people an idea the bang for their buck, basically. So if they're
mm.
spending money on it, what they're getting back. So that's kind of two areas I'm certainly focused on. But I encourage people to look at the markets and say, where are they headed? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the problems they face at the moment? And how can I make it worth their while engaging with me? What's going to make it real value for money?
Perfect. Is responding different to being reactive?
Yeah, I think it is. What are you thinking there?
'Cause reactive is very much a pivot because something's changed, but responding is it kind of sounds like responding is more foresight.
Yeah, it sounds like I probably need to think that one through. I think it's more control, isn't it? It sounds like I'm responding to something
Yeah.
in a calculated way, whereas reacting might just be, well, that could be any number. We can react to many things. In fact, we often
Mm,
do as humans, don't we? React to things, but not always in a positive way. So I quite like that idea. We're responding to the marketplace rather than reacting to it, and responding to what people want. And what are people asking us as coaches, as
mhm, mhm.
professionals? What's the thing that they ask us? Maybe that thing they saw before isn't what they want anymore. So we have to respond to that. Yeah, quite like that idea. Yeah.
Perfect. And your final moment, John Drysdale, what is the defining light bulb, the defining part of wisdom that John Drysdale wants to part? What is it?
Oh, that's right. From all this stuff I know, I I'm going to clutch at something here. There's so much going through my head, Cuddy. Do you know one thing that I've really been banging on about? And I did a seminar last week. It was called Win That Pitch,
Mhm.
pitching and presenting for business results. And we had a lot of people from the network that you would know, Cuddy, in the room with me. And my big soapbox is how few people on the network actually have an ask. So they'll do like a little 60-second thing about their business, or sometimes they get like a longer feature presentation.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things. One is usually pretty unstructured. So it's going on about, how to create structure
Yeah.
that keeps your audience awake and, all that sort of stuff. And have something at the end of it that calls the audience to attention and says, like, this is the ask. The metaphor I use is like going to a pop concert, like so the lights go down at the start, the audience knows something's happening, and usually there's some big number. Is I don't know what the last thing you went to, Cuddy, but there's usually some big number. There's usually something that says, "Well, we're started now, so shut up, everyone. The show's started." So you got to grab the audience's attention. Then in the middle, there's probably three phases. You'll have some well-known stuff, then you'll have some album tracks, and then you'll have something on the way to the big finish, so the big hits,
Yeah.
at least the finish. And then at the end of it, there's going to be some sort of encore, isn't there? And it's usually the most famous song.
It is. We always wait for the encore. Yeah, you're right.
And then what you want the audience to do is singing your song on the way out. So whatever it was, if it was like Oasis, like Champagne Supernova, whatever it is, the audience was probably singing. I don't know what number they sang it, but I'm just guessing. Um, the audience sings that song. This it's the same with your business presentation. You want them singing your song. You want them to actually go away from your little presentation, your pitch, your feature presentation, and you want them to do something with that. And I do get a little bit disappointed when I see so many people in the network and they haven't built in a structure, and they definitely haven't always got that big song at the end, now I know how to go away, because something like yourself, it's fairly easy to go away and talk about what you do, Cuddy,
Mm,
because you define your product and you know where to find you, know where to
mm,
find your podcast, know where to find your Udemy courses and all the rest of it. So,
mm.
sorry, it was on my soapbox, but that's
No, it's fine. No, it's
that's the
absolutely
big
brilliant.
the big thing I would say your viewers and listeners is have that call to action, the ask at the end. What is it you're asking people for?
Which would be a comment or a question or a click here or
Yeah, something like
find
that.
out more. Yeah, I
Find out
I've
more.
only
Come and
just
talk
learned
to
about.
me.
Yeah,
Come
I've
and
only
talk to
just
me after
found
the
out
session.
about CTAs. Yeah, I've only just found out
Have
about
you
call to
really?
actions.
Yeah.
Yeah, only about over the past 3 months, and I don't do enough. I actually do not do enough CTAs, to be fair. So
I've
I have
seen it.
actually really started with.
Last week I saw two different presentations from business people, and neither of them had that. And one of them was I won't say what it was, but it was like examples of their product. So there was loads of images with the product on it. So I knew what they did, but I don't have any idea how to find them work or refer business to them, or you know what the process is that they go through, or even who the target market was. I wasn't quite sure who they were selling that to. Um, so it's a big shame. It's another thing I'm always happy to chat to people about if they want some help with that. But you need to get really good at those kind of mini presentations and presenting what you do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. John Drysdale, it was an absolute pleasure having you on the Mind
Thank
Management
you for
Mentors
having me once again.
podcast.
Yeah,
Not a
great.
problem at all.
Enjoyed that.
We will see you at the dips as you do. We
Yes.
can't
Yeah,
wait
we
to
do the
have you.
dips. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's as always, if you've enjoyed this podcast I think we've got over 1,000 videos now on the YouTube, and I am solely focused on YouTube. Like and subscribe, ask us some questions, put in a comment, and really start find out all the information that you need to know. And it's free information for you. That's what it's all about. We put out as much free information out there so that you can learn everything that you need to go out and do it yourself. As always, big love from Cuddy, and we will see you on the next episode of the Mind Management Mentors. But before we leave, thank you very much to John Drysdale for being a guest and a part of it. Thank you,
Thank
John.
thank you.